All right. Здравствуйте. Welcome back. Those of you who were here last time, is anybody here today that was not here last week during the hook writing workshop? I'm just curious. You tell me in the chat, or we're all back for the second time. That's great. I'm actually recognizing quite a few names on here. So welcome back. We're kind of doing the opposite end of the essay today. So we started off looking at hook writing, and now we're going to look at, welcome back, Ali Khan. I know a lot of people, I'm recognizing names, Diaz also, and I believe Dilnaz was here, and Shirin. I'm definitely recognizing names. So that's great. And welcome those of you who are watching this on YouTube as well. All the resources are available for you to use too. I'll try to put some links in the descriptions, stuff like that, to those materials. Okay, so anyway, we're doing kind of two ends of the essay here. We started off by looking at hook writing, and now we're looking at the end, the conclusions. Okay, and in fact, the PowerPoint presentation I have for today, let me just pull this up here, even talks about the end. Right at the beginning. That's something that I want to focus on. And so I think a lot of us understand that conclusions are endings, but there's a lot more to it than that. This should be an interesting session for us. Even though there are only 14 people here right now, I'm going to do what are called breakout sessions. And so this is something that Zoom allows, where we can actually go into smaller groups and share some ideas and some writing with each other. Okay, so maybe something that you would be shy to share in a general room or on a YouTube live stream, you could actually share in your breakout rooms with a little bit more privacy and actually be able to talk with each other a little more comfortably. Okay, so there's a lot of reasons I think it's a good thing. Okay, so without taking too much time here, let me get into a warm-up activity. This is something I talked about with Roshan beforehand. And then Roshan, if there's something that you want to add or some way you want to change this activity, I'm open to it, okay? But we were talking about these essence objects. This is something that Ethan Sawyer talks about in his book that I believe Ms. Roshan has actually connected you with. And so writing about one object that's close to your heart, okay? And so what we would want to do, we would want a description, not only of like the physical appearance of this thing, I guess, but also its importance to you, okay? I'm not necessarily looking for complete sentences here, maybe a little bit more of like a brainstorm type activity, but just trying to capture one object. And I'm gonna do an example for you here. And I'm going to use my mom's hot chocolate machine. Now, I know that might seem kind of ridiculous. Why would somebody have a machine only for hot chocolate? But that is my mother, okay? And that is her hot chocolate machine. I actually was shocked that I could find the exact make and model online, although I don't use this cup, okay? So, all right, good. Roshan, because of past experiences, we've removed annotations. So I'm going to put some stuff in the chat here. I'm just going to write to you some things about this. Okay. So the first thing that comes up with this, I'm just going to write some words and I'll talk about them. Evening. Hot chocolate at my house is, actually, I'm going to write this too. Hot chocolate is a year-round thing at my house. I know a lot of people around the world do hot chocolate only at winter time. No. In July, in the middle of like a very hot day, hot chocolate's not a bad idea at my house, okay? And so we do hot chocolate, especially in the evenings. My family drinks coffee and tea and everything, but hot chocolate is something especially in evenings. It is always my mom who initiates or starts the hot chocolate process. And there's like a very kind of low rumble. I'm just putting in some kind of words and phrases to keep you up with what I'm saying, but also just some of the things that I might think about if I was going to try to write about this, right? There's kind of a low rumble that this machine makes, almost like it's purring, okay? So it's almost like a pet in our family. This thing has been around forever. We've bought like 2 models of it, I think, in all the years that we've had it. Okay. And so, to be honest with you, I don't even love hot chocolate that much. It's good, but that's not really what it's about. When my mother asks if I want hot chocolate, I always say yes because it makes her feel good to make it for us. So I want to give her that opportunity to find her joy, I guess, by making that hot chocolate for us. So my relationship with my mother, I can really kind of boil down to this machine. And even the idea of sometimes not really wanting something or having time for something, but saying, okay, let's do it because I want to have that moment with my mom, right? So that's my hot chocolate machine. Now you wouldn't have to have a picture exactly, but I would want you to think about um, an object that is important to you. And you wouldn't have to, again, you wouldn't have to share a picture, but just to be able to describe and talk about this machine and its importance in your life and what it represents for you would be a really good thing. So, Roshan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put people in breakout rooms. If you think it's okay to do that now, or should there be any other instructions first?
It's up to you,
Okay.
but don't put me in any rooms, okay?
I won't put you in any rooms. What you can
Okay.
do is kind of you can float around because you're a co-host. You'll be able to move from room to
Okay.
room if you
That's
want.
good.
I'll put everybody else in rooms. And so what I'd like you to do, you'll be with like one other person. Just think of one object. And let me just here. I'm gonna say an essence object that reminds you of home. Okay, so we've been home. A lot of us have been home a lot lately. So now, that could be your actual home itself. That could be your hometown. We can think about this pretty liberally. It could be something that reminds you of one of your parents or your grandparents, but an object that reminds you of home. I'm going to say that. Now, I'm going to put us in breakout rooms, and I'd like you to just take turns. Each person kind of share one object and what significance does that object hold in your life? Okay? Let me make sure the chat is good. Yeah, think about it. Okay. All right. And hmm. Okay, Roshan, I have to put you in a room, but then you can leave the room at any time. So I'm going to let you leave too. You can leave. So sorry, I'm seeing that that's the only thing I can do. Okay. All right, here we go. I'm going to put you guys in rooms and here we go. we're back. Welcome back. I've got other people joining us as well. I've closed all the breakout rooms. Hope that was fun. We're going to use those breakout rooms for a couple different activities today. So I'm going to just wait a moment. We've still got, in 10 seconds, everyone will be back in the room. Okay. All right, and welcome back, everybody. So why did we do that? Well, there's a couple reasons. One is I think as a warm-up activity, it's really important that we have something that kind of allows us to talk to each other and to get out of our okay, now I'm confused. So Ali Khan, I'm probably too old for it. What does it mean that was oof? If I had to guess, oof is not a good thing. Ayana likes it, okay? Nartai maybe has a cat that's walking on the keyboard, or there's some like teenager slang that I don't understand. The FDFFFDS, I don't know. Oh, we didn't know what to do. I'm sorry, Nartai. Okay, so let me explain a little bit. I was trying to get, this is from Ethan Sawyer's book, which I believe Roshan's given you a link to. If not, you're going to get a link today. There's a feedback form we'd like you to fill out, and there's a link to the book in that feedback form. But one of the big things he talks about that I think is just tremendous is the idea of essence objects. These objects in our lives that it could be anything. It could be my phone. It could be a piece of paper. It could be a sweater that someone gave me one time at a really important moment, or a song. But it's something that in our personal lives, not something that the person next to me would have the same story. It is something that I uniquely have a story about. Okay, it could be a scar. It could be anything, right? And so what those do is they allow us kind of to kind of jump off into what could be a good essay. So Ali Khan's saying he was the only person who was talking in his group. This is a challenge in breakout rooms sometimes. This is probably a reason. So for this breakout room, we only had 2 or 3 people in a room. I'll probably put like 4 people in a room next time. I want to make sure that we've got enough that people can talk and not to be shy. But yeah, don't worry about making mistakes, guys. It's always just good to be present and try our best, right? Let me check chat. Yeah, they're good icebreakers. I agree. Okay, so that's that first one. The next part, I want to ask in the chat, and then Roshan, maybe you can tell me what you think about this too. Last week we did hook writing stuff. Did anybody actually write a hook for an essay? Like, does anybody have? I didn't give you homework, so I'm not surprised if you didn't do it. But if you do have a hook, we could look through our hooks right now and kind of assess where we're at. Okay. Okay, Timberland's tried hooks before. Anybody else? If you haven't written your hook yet, these are the things we want to think about when we think about a hook. Okay. So first off, what descriptive language, that's adjectives, sensory words, etc., is the writer using here? And is it effective? Okay, so we're really looking at those sensory words, things that we can smell, taste, touch, hear, and see, right? And I don't mean that we should be overusing these, okay? We don't need a descriptive word every 5 seconds or 6 adjectives before talking about the spoon that we had growing up. We don't need to talk about the glorious silver spoon that shone like an angel. That gets ridiculous. There's no reason for that, right? But just we want to put the reader there, right? So this is what we want to think about. What descriptive language are we using? And then, is there a clear connection between that opening paragraph, that hook paragraph, and the topic of the rest of the paper? Okay, are we feeling that that connection is clear? Okay, and then we also want to always think about when we're reading someone else's material, what recommendations do we have for this person? And also what questions do we have for this person? Okay. So if nobody has a hook ready to look at right now, we don't have to do this, but these are the questions I'd like you to consider, and you can have these for later as well. Okay. So from there, I want to get into conclusions. And I've got this screen here that we can look at, but before we get too into this, why don't you tell me in the chat box, what do you think a conclusion is? Like, how would you quickly define a conclusion to somebody? How would you describe it? Brief overall statement. That's pretty good, Alkan. A summary of everything you've discussed in the essay. Okay. Okay. Good one, Noraya. Anybody else? A conclusion. The Avengers Endgame. Okay. Definitely a conclusion of sorts, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways we could define this. Quite simply, it's the end, right? I mean, it's the end of whatever we're doing. A lot of times when you're writing an essay, you feel like it could go on and on and on forever, and you don't know how to end it, right? So this is actually kind of a challenging thing to do, and I want to kind of focus on how we might go about that today. Noria, is it Noria? Am I saying it right now? Yes, good. Noria. I'll try Noria. Okay, good. Okay. Yes, please, everyone. I'm new to names, so correct me if I get something wrong. So here's what I've got. This comes from a really great website that I'll just show you quickly in a moment here. It's called Purdue Owl. I'll write that in the chat box right now. It's a really great website for all things connected to writing. OWL stands for the Online Writing Lab, okay? So conclusions wrap up what you've been discussing in your paper. After you move from a general to a specific information in the introduction and body, your conclusion starts pulling back into more general stuff usually, and we kind of restate the main points of your argument, okay? Conclusions can also call for action sometimes if you're trying to make a point about something, or talk about future research that would be worth doing. For us, this is not necessarily relevant. This is more just conclusions generally. We are going to look at conclusions in personal statements or motivation letters in just a moment. So in a general way, what we want to do is probably find some way to restate the introductory topic. You don't want to say the exact same words over again. And sometimes just straight up repeating the introduction is not the right thing to do. In fact, I would say there's usually a more effective close. But we do want to somehow return to those main ideas, right? We want to remind the reader how we came to our current position, and then talk about what we're hoping for in the future, right? This is an important thing to do. A lot of times students really want to write something new in their conclusion, and I've seen it work before, but it's dangerous, okay? Don't try to bring in new points or end with some big shocker conclusion or try to solve world hunger. A lot of people say, you know, if accepted by this school, I promise to dramatically improve the state of healthcare in my country or something like that. You don't have to make unrealistic promises, okay? Sometimes the most meaningful changes that we want to make are the small ones, okay? So it doesn't have to be this big, grandiose statement, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Simplicity is best for a clear and convincing message, okay? So let me get out of this for a second, and I'm gonna show you a document that I have. We'll stop sharing for a second. I'm gonna pull up this document that I want to send you on. Great, here we go. I'm gonna send you guys a document on Zoom. So if you're on a phone, you probably can't open this, which is fine. Everybody else will be able to. Let me see, how do I send chat? Here we go. File, great. All right, my computer, and sorry guys, give me a second here. Okay. Oh, it's telling me that I can't send it. That's fine. I guess I'll just share it on the screen. That's weird. I don't know why that. Oh, what? Why did that happen? Okay. Okay. I apparently don't have the file that I thought I had. That's unfortunate. Give me a second and I'll get us there online. I can take us there. Sorry, guys. So I'll show you a little bit of, I didn't mean to show this, but I will show you a little bit of the website that I pulled this from, and maybe that will be useful for you too. Okay, so here I've got a Padlet that I've made. Padlets are like these kind of online website, easy to build website that I can do for my students, right? And I had one for writing effective conclusions, okay? And here there's a book of all different writing stuff. And most of this is actually, it's good, but it's not necessarily what we want right now. But there's a really good section about endings, okay? And so what I'm gonna do is we're in this big document now. I'm gonna take us to page 90 so we can look at happy endings, the good endings of, all right. There we go. All right. So what I want to do, we're going to talk about a couple good ways that you can end an essay, and then we're going to get into kind of an interactive activity. Okay. So here are some things that some people do for good endings in general. And then we'll talk later about whether or not you think this would be a good way to end an essay for a personal statement, okay? So the first thing some people do is they'll end with some advice, try to tell someone what to do, whether or not they think it's a good idea to do something, okay? And so here we have an example. If you cannot swallow and your throat is puffy, then you have strep. You should get lots of rest and get a shot because the shot will make you better faster than the medicine, right? So maybe for a medical article or something where you're trying to give people tips on how to succeed at something, this might be good, right? Sometimes people try to end with a big feeling, okay? And so you'll notice these sentences here are actually pretty amateurish. These were written by fourth graders, so these are not high school students, okay? But the ideas here, these are different endings we can do for writing, and the essential idea of these, I think, is pretty sound, okay? So here you would be ending with your overall emotional reaction to an experience, okay? Number 3, you would end with something that you want readers to remember, okay? This is kind of returning to that big idea. Ending with something you want readers to do, okay? End by thinking about the future, and then you would talk about your future goals kind of at the end. Something you learned, kind of a moral of the story type thing, okay? Ending with a recommendation, ending with your main idea, ending with your main idea and its implications. So here, implications are the effects of that main idea. Like, what does it mean in my life, right? Ending with the effect of something on you or other people. Ending with a question, okay? Ending by mentioning a sequel possibility. Ending with a reflective evaluation, which is where we're reflection like a mirror, right? So we're looking into a mirror sort of our life, and we're looking back at this experience and evaluating it, okay? Ending with a wish or a hope or a dream. Ending with a tribute, okay? Like a tribute is like a dedication to somebody, okay? And then this one, ending with what you started with. So if you have an image at the beginning, you would come back to it later. This one's pretty good. So we're just gonna look at this here together. It says, boom, if you can't read that font, it is kind of silly font. Boom, the trunk slammed. Bang, the car door slammed as we got out of the van. Buses lined up on the sidewalk. The screeches of the buses got annoying. Screech, screech. We walked and walked until we found a place to sit for the parade. I saw a grease van. Hold on. Yeah, I'll share the name of the book. Good, sure. This is called the Writing Strategy Guide, and I'll make sure that you guys have access to this as well. okay? I saw a grease fan and someone threw me a daffodil. The daffodil petals were soft. Sorry, and it smelled pretty. A Titanic float sailed by. All schools had cheers. One school's band was Star Wars. A dummy was shot out of a cannon. It made me jump. We ate snacks at the parade like sandwiches and juice and carrots. They were good. The parade was 2 hours. We sat on a blanket. Things blew everywhere when the float went by. Woo chunk. Finally, the parade was done. We put the blanket in the trunk. Boom! It slammed again and we drove away as I thought about how much fun I had. Now, if you turned in this as a personal statement essay, you would not get into college because it's written by a child, right? But the essential idea here that we're starting with the trunk slamming and ending with the trunk slamming, you have an action that happens at first or an object that we see at first, and then we return to that object or that idea at the end. That can be a really good thing to do for a conclusion, okay? Cool. So before we get into an interactive activity, here's stuff we don't want to do, okay? And I'll give you a couple more endings that I really don't like, okay? So one thing not to do is the end, okay? Don't say, okay, and that's all. That's not good. That worked in movies maybe, but it doesn't work elsewhere. I hope you like my story. Not a good way to end. They might have liked your story, but they won't like your ending, okay? So yeah, and then this, okay, so in this essay, I have told you about my love of science. But no, nope. Not the right way to go about it, okay? This is a really terrible ending, and I see one or two every year, and they always get me frustrated, where you're talking about something, and then at the end you say, oh, but it was all a dream, right? That was probably years and years ago, a very original way to end an essay. But it's been done so many times now. If you're going to have some kind of dream sequence in your essay, make it just one paragraph. Do not make the entire essay into a paragraph or into a dream, and definitely don't end on a dream, okay? Let's see. What else do I want to say? Okay, we're going to get into this activity. There is one other kind of ending that I really don't like, and it's actually a whole essay that I don't like. So I'm just going to beg you, because I've seen so many of these essays, and Roshan has too, not to do this essay. So if you write an essay and you started out by saying something like, the girl was scared. The girl didn't know what to do, and she was worried about her mom and this, and you're talking in third person about the girl this, the girl that, or the little boy this, the little boy that. And then at the end of the essay, in your conclusion, you say, oh, and in case you were wondering, that little girl, that was me. Okay, so everybody knows that was you, right? Like we all get what's going on throughout that essay. It's just kind of an annoying way to talk about yourself. And I understand it as a literary device, but it's actually pretty cliched, which is a way of saying that it's overused. So I wouldn't go that route, okay? I would not go that route. Now, here's what we're gonna do. This is what I wanted to share with you. I'm gonna try this again because I don't know what happened. I'm on page 103, so if I should be able to not print this, but if I can save it to a PDF, page range, current page. Let's try this. There we go. Let me see what happens here if I do this. All right, I'm gonna try to save the, or share this with you now, this document, and we'll see if this works. All right. Cool. Okay, that works. So you guys are gonna get this document. If you're not using a computer, this might not be easy to see. So I'm gonna kind of pull out here, but if you are using a computer, you should be able to download this, maybe even on a phone, and actually be able to read through this document. Here's what we've got. I've got examples, and again, mind you, these are these are examples written by children, okay? So it's not that, don't worry about the quality of the sentence itself. It's more about the approach. We've got 16 different endings here, 16 different endings. And I would like you to talk. I'm going to put you guys in groups of, let me see how we're at now, 14. So I'm going to put you guys in groups of like 3 or 4 people where you can actually sit, and I want you to go through these different endings together and decide, do you think that these endings would be appropriate for a personal statement essay? Okay, I'll write that question in the chat, but I'm also going to say it again. Do you think these endings would be appropriate for a personal statement essay? Some might be, and some might not be. Okay, so I'm going to put us in groups now. All right, breakout rooms, and I'd like you to talk about this. But before we do, let me see. I'm going to recreate these rooms. Okay, before we go into rooms, are there any questions, any kind of thoughts or concerns? Does everybody know what we're going to do? I want you to look at this document, and there are 16 different endings, types of endings on there, and I want you to think, would this type of ending be good for a personal statement essay, and if so, why? Okay, Roshan, is there anything I'm missing? I'm going to get us into this activity now.
I think everything is fine. So, and I actually could download it, so it's working.
Okay, good, good. The first time I tried to send it, it didn't work, so I'm glad that's working.
Yeah, it's
again,
working.
Roshan, you're going to be in a group, but you should be able to move between that group and other groups.
That's
Okay,
fine.
good. Here we go. All right, we're starting to get people back. That's great. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so yeah, I hope you're kind of seeing some of the value in the breakout sessions. I think it's a good thing to be able to sit and kind of talk with a smaller group of people about some of this. So usually, let's see, what's the chat say? It was cool this time, right? Good. I'm glad to hear it, Nartai. Okay, so wait. Dilnaz is sorry, Timberland. Dilnaz, why are you sorry? Or is that something that I'm not supposed to know about? Just confused. Everything's good? If there's ever questions, there's something you can do while you're in the, okay, that's good, that's good. There's something you can do while you're in the breakout session where you can actually ask for assistance. And if you do that, I will be able to come over and I can help you, okay? Cool. All right, so usually I go through these kind of one by one and we talk about the value in them. And I think we could do that, but I actually kind of want to do this a different way right now. I'm going to ask you just straight up, which one of these endings would not be a good ending? You can either say something into your microphone or type in the chat. Or would any of these just not be good for what we were trying to do? We've got 16 different endings here. All right, the first one is not good. The sequel, I'm hearing someone say. So the first one. Now, I think this one's a little controversial. I actually heard a good argument for advice. So if you don't think advice is a good way to end, Ali Khan is saying not a good way to end. What is the reason? Why would this not be a good way to end your personal statement or statement of purpose essay? Advice. What is the reason for that? All right. 15 is tricky. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So with advice, I'm kind of waiting to see if anybody wants to share their thoughts. Don't be shy to speak if you want. I want to hear somebody make an argument. Why should we not end with advice? It should be telling about you as a person. Giving advice is something that anybody else would like. Okay, so there's maybe some argument there, right? I have always felt in the past, although I actually heard a really interesting argument this time the other way, but I've always felt like advice is not the best way to go because we don't want to look like we're telling the admissions board what to do. However, I heard some really good counter argument from the breakout rooms. And so, Shirin, if you want to share, why do you think advice could be okay? Or anybody else maybe who has that feeling?
I think every ending here can be combined with other endings in order to make sufficient story. And in the case of advice, I think we're not giving some life advice regarding private lives, but something really specific that concerns our story. So I suggested that advice can be combined with lesson. Maybe I have learned. So that's why I think that advice can be actually a pretty good ending.
Yeah, you know, I've been doing these workshops for several years, and I think that's the first time I've ever heard someone make a pretty good argument for why we could use an advice ending. But I do think it's true. If you did like a lesson learned essay, you could probably do something about advice for someone going through the same thing. That would work pretty well. Yeah, cool. So it's kind of a yes and no, right? What were the other ones that people said no to? 11, question. Okay, we're not going to have a debate on this one, I hope, because I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I don't think you should end your essay with a question. What's the problem with ending an essay with a question? Think about it. What would maybe not be good about that? I'll check the chat out here. So I know Ayana said that ending with a question is not a good thing. I completely agree, Ayana. And
Uh,
probably other people feel that way too.
I think it is bad because you like start new topic or introduce new paragraph. I don't think it's like a good idea to start with question.
Okay, that's a good point, Temerlan. Yeah, we don't want to be introducing new information at the end, like we talked about. That's a mistake. It makes the story incomplete. I agree, Sagita. Um, we could reveal all of our points, but ending with a question at the end would make things ambiguous. And then Ayana says that a question would be good at the beginning. So those are all pretty solid points. I definitely agree with Ayana that a question would be better at the beginning than at the end. But respectfully, I'm going to say I don't really like putting questions anywhere in the essay. And here's why. Among all the other good things you're saying, it's true. We don't want to bring in new information and we don't want to end ambiguously. But you also don't want to create an opportunity for your reader to answer a question in the way that different than how you're expecting it to be answered, right? So if you say something in your essay like, if not me accepted for the chemistry department, then who would be? The admissions person can say, well, this person or that person or that person. I've got other essays here, right? So we don't want to create a situation where somebody can answer a question in a way different than how we would maybe expect them to. It's a good rhetorical device for some essays, but I don't think it's one that we should go with here. And respectfully to Ayana and anyone else who might think otherwise, I would offer that I don't think we should be using questions that we're not planning to answer ourselves, at least, even in the beginning. I don't usually see essays with questions of any kind that are like open-ended like that I end up liking. Roshan has seen a lot more essays than me, so Roshan, if you have a different opinion on this.
I actually have one person who managed to write essay with like lots of questions, but kind of like they were good, you know, and I liked how he was answering. But no, actually, it was like the whole essay with lots of questions, and he was not really looking for answers, something like that. It worked, but to be honest,
Okay.
we once last year there was
Yeah.
once.
It's one of those things. Like another example that I would kind of connect this to is humor. Some people get humor right and it works really well, but the vast majority of the time, humor is a really bad idea in an essay. What I mean is like at least telling lots of jokes. So the same thing probably with questions. I'm sure there are a handful of essays that can do it well, but I would usually avoid it. Yeah. So then what else did we have here? Somebody said 15 is tricky. So I want to look down at 15. I agree. 15 is a tricky one, the tribute. So let me talk. So that was Shirin again. Shirin, do you have any, I'm sorry, I keep picking on you, but you say a lot of interesting stuff in our chat. Why do you think 15 is a tricky one? Or if you're someone else, maybe just think about, do you agree or do you disagree? Do you think it would be a good way to end?
I think a tribute is it might be good if, for example, in your essay you're talking about, for example, how your mother is your role model, and in the end you add a tribute to your mother. That sort of essays. But also there is like a problem that you might make the essay overall and the ending too much about the other person, not about yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that it's good to remember that there are multiple prompts for the Common App, right? And so one of them is to write about someone or something that has had a huge impact on your life. And if you're writing about somebody like your mother, who's had a big impact on your life, ending with a tribute might be okay. But again, it's tricky. And if you're doing a different topic or a different prompt, it's almost certainly not an appropriate ending, right? Okay, so we've talked about the ones that maybe are a little bit weird, or that we maybe don't want to use here. Okay. But what about, which one of these stand out as ones that might be particularly good for us? Go ahead and throw that in the chat. Do any of these seem like they'd be especially good? Okay, 16, the wraparound. Yeah, we definitely like the wraparound. We're going to see some examples of wraparound used in a moment here when we look at some essays. Okay, everybody's saying that. That's good. That's a good one. 8 and 9. Okay, and 13. Interesting. So the main idea, pretty classic, right? You're never really going wrong by talking about the main idea. Oh, here we've got a.
I just sent. Do you remember that essay, Dad?
The dad essay.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
just said it, and that's like a very good example where tribute worked, but it was combination of tribute and future. Right.
So I don't know that we necessarily, if we're going to look at conclusions here, we don't probably have time to get through this entire essay right now. But Roshan has just shared this with you, and I highly recommend looking at this because Roshan is completely right. This is a very good tribute essay. And part of what's going on here, notice the prompt, indicate a person who's had an influence on you and describe that influence. This essay is about this person's father, okay? But it's not really about father. It is about father, but it's also about all the many activities that the student did when they were preparing for college. Okay, so as I fill out my college applications, I become the first member of my family to apply to college immediately after high school. Father is here, but he's used as a context for the student's story, right? The student is still at the center of the story, right? And so we see that throughout here, okay? So yeah, this would be a good one to look at later as well, okay? All right, so yeah, we talked about the wraparound. I agree. I think that's a pretty good way to go too. Okay, I'm gonna bring us back to our center. Hi, everybody, welcome again. And I'm gonna get us to our PowerPoint presentation now because I'm gonna continue with a new activity, okay? That list of endings and that book, those are gonna be available for you later. But I kind of want to get on to another activity that we have here. So there are 5 prompts that are pretty common on the Common App. Every year, there might be 1 or 2 words change, but the essential idea is the same. And I kind of want to run through those with you. Probably a lot of people know those already, but if you don't, this is what they look like, okay? So the first one, or A, or 1, or whatever, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. Okay? Something unique about you, right? Next one. The lessons we take, this is that lessons learned essay that somebody was referring to earlier. The lessons we take from failure can be fundamental to later success. Recount an incident or time when you experienced failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? All right. Reflect on a time when you challenged a belief or idea. What prompted you to act, and would you make the same decision again? Describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. Okay, pretty classic one. And discuss an accomplishment or event, formal or informal, that marked your transition from childhood to adulthood within your culture, community, or family. Okay, so. Oh, I'm not on my PowerPoint. I meant to be. Sorry, guys. Let me get us there. Here. Sorry about that. Boom. Okay. Sorry, guys. These 5. Okay. And so what we're going to do, I've actually got some essays, real essays that were written by real students that got into universities abroad. But the trick is I've removed the last paragraph. So what I want you to do, I'm going to put you in groups, and I want you in that group, read through the essay. You can talk about what you like, what you don't like about that essay. But what I really want you to do is think about how, if it was your essay, how would you conclude it? How would you like to see it concluded? And then we'll come back together and we'll talk about the ending that the student actually used. So the first essay we're going to look at is using this prompt, okay? The unique background, identity, interest, or talent that we would be incomplete without. All right, so I'm going to share with you now the first one of these essays, and I'm having a hard time getting it. Here we go, got it now. All right, just a second. All right, conclusion one, this should work. There we go, great. So I've sent you a document. I'd like you to open that, and I want you to think about, I'll write it here in the chat so that we've got it. Bye, Alejandro. Thanks for coming. Okay. All right, the final paragraph's missing, so how would you end this essay? All right, I'm going to get us in breakout rooms now. Okay. And just a sec, sorry. Okay, here we go. All right, welcome back, everybody. So let's see. I'm keeping an eye on my chat box here. Cool. Yeah. Great. Great. Yeah. I think it's good. It actually feels a little bit more like an actual classroom when we get to use those breakouts. Okay. So what do we think about this essay? Pretty good. I like it. But what kind of conclusion? What do you think needs to happen in this conclusion? We're going to look at the conclusion in a moment here. You don't have to predict exactly what they'll say, but think about what they need to do. Focusing on the future, okay?
I think we can like make a wrap around it, and when he came to the in the end, he like saw the interview again, and he like understand all the words which was said before, and like it's wrap around it, and he came to the back with the Japanese language.
Okay, so we're watching TV again like we were at the beginning, but this time we understand the words. Yeah, that would be cool.
It's like a big trip to the end, and
yeah.
in the end he just understand all the words.
Okay, Diaz says putting kind of giving the effect of this love of Japanese culture. That might be a good thing. Yeah, great stuff, guys. I think you're all pretty much right. I'm going to go ahead and take us to the actual ending now. So I've got it on our PowerPoint here. I'll show you what it looks like. This is that last paragraph that we were missing. It's right here. Okay. So what do we end up with here? I'm going to let you read this for yourself. We kind of got what Diaz was referring to a little bit. We get the effect of this experience, maybe a lesson learned a little bit. We don't really get that wraparound that Tamerlan just mentioned, but I think it would work. I think it would definitely be a good way to do this. Okay. One of the fun and also really challenging things about essay writing, and particularly about conclusions, is that there's often more than one right answer, which is another way of saying there is no right answer. Right? So that can be kind of confounding. It can be kind of make it difficult for us sometimes. Any questions or comments on this? I'm going to move us to another essay in a moment. I hope it's useful to look at example essays. I've always found as a writer that that's one of the most useful things we can do. Okay, so I'm going to move us to the second prompt now. The second prompt was this. This is the one about lessons learned, a challenge, a setback, or a failure. If I'm not mistaken, I actually particularly like this one. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this up for us. All right, so we're going to do it again. I'm going to get us back in breakout rooms. We'll take about the same amount of time. Was that a good amount of time? Did you need more time, less time? Give me a little feedback here.
That's a good
time. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna keep it to about 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, great. Here we go.
Oh. Oh.
You are muted, Ben.
Ben, you actually
Where-
muted yourself, so we cannot hear you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I can explain. Sorry, I didn't realize I muted myself. My son's playing Alien over here, so I kind of ran out with my Minions mask just to freak him out a little bit. So that was fun. But we're back. So a lot of people had the same thing to say about that essay, which is what? That last paragraph actually works pretty well as a conclusion, right? So I kind of think so too. However, that being said, there is in fact a conclusion paragraph. So I'm going to get us there. Okay. All right, here it is. It actually is kind of a long one. And I think this lines up, well, I'll give you a second to read that. I think this lines up pretty well with some of the stuff people were talking about, right? That if we are going to go somewhere from here, we need to go into like future plans. We need to go into the job, right? So if there is going to be another paragraph, it probably should look something like this. Okay. I can't see what was in the chat, so I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. A future ending, right? Yeah, I agree. I think that's what we want to do. Great. Okay. So moving on, we're going to get into another one here. Prompt 3, a time that you challenged a belief or idea. What prompted you to act, and would you make the same decision again? All right. So again, I'm going to share with you a document. I've got another one of these. Okay. And we'll take about the same amount of time for this one because I think it's working pretty well. I might change the groups. I might see if you want to talk to somebody else. I think that's cool.
Please no.
Please no. You want to stay with the same group. Okay. Good.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that opinion. I needed that.
Yeah, and he will change.
Yeah. I would have changed everybody. I'm glad I'm not doing that. So good. Let me make sure now here's a problem. I've got two. Yes, this is the one I want. Okay, good. A time that you challenged a belief, right? So I have two documents that are called conclusion 3. I wanted to make sure I got the right one. It's this one. All right, this is a short one, so it won't take as long. I'm still going to give us about the same amount of time, maybe a little bit less time, okay? But again, looking through this one, and I'm going to get us back in our groups, okay? I am going to put Roshan in a different group. I like to kind of move her around. So I'm going to move her room 1, and there we go. All right. I think everybody's back. So we were looking, again, kind of a shorter essay this time. Difficult essay. Diaz, could you talk about why a little bit? What's difficult about this essay? Mainly showing, not really telling. Yeah. Yeah, this one's more like a narrative, isn't it? It is more like a story being told. Kind of just checking the chat here. Yeah, yeah. Good notes, good notes. I kind of agree with you, and I also think this is pretty short, so it definitely needs like a pretty punchy conclusion to get anything, right? And so I do think this conclusion is pretty strong. Kind of hard to understand the main idea. Yeah, so it's about challenging a belief or idea. What is the belief or idea? That I guess that our teachers shouldn't yell? It's a little bit confusing, right? This is not my favorite of the essays we're looking at. I'll admit that. But I think it is worth looking at examples of essays we like and essays that we maybe don't as much. So this is that conclusion paragraph. And so I don't know that Roshan would agree with me or not. I don't think this is bad material for an essay, but I do feel like the student kind of rushes through it a little too quickly. It would have been nice to slow down and talk about some of the nature of like why this was a problem, or some of the struggle with deciding to act up would maybe be a little bit better. I'm not sure. But yeah, this does feel like a little bit light compared to the other essays. I don't know, Roshan, do you have any thoughts on this?
I actually find this topic one of the most challenging ones. Like none of my students ever like written a good essay for this topic. You know, it's like really difficult to explain why you challenge the belief in an idea, and it's very difficult to explain what that belief was and why it's wrong in your way. So, and I actually like this essay because this is the first time when I see that it can work. So
Mhm.
it's a good example. I'm not sure if I like the conclusion.
Mhm.
It feels, you know, like the whole essay was like show don't tell, and this one is very kind of like just describing.
Yeah,
Maybe add some kind of, you know, like action.
I think that would help. Some dialogue or something. I don't know what it is. Something about this essay just feels kind of rushed to me, like
Yeah.
hurried. But I think the essential ideas there are pretty good. I agree with you, and I also agree, Roshan, that this is one of the hardest prompts to write to. So that's maybe good instruction for those of us who are wondering which prompt to work with moving forward. Okay, so I think more examples is always a good thing. So we're going to look at one here, a problem you've solved or a problem you would like to solve. And then this is pretty broad. It could be anything of personal importance, no matter how big or how small. Okay, and so I'm going to pull this up now. Okay, and we're back in our rooms. Here we go. All right. So people are almost all back now. Welcome back, everybody. So I think you'll agree, maybe you'll agree, this is a really strong essay. This is somebody who's able to consistently, with each paragraph, identify a problem and then kind of start talking about some of the solutions to that problem that they've come up with. I think this is very good writing in that way. We're able to kind of very simply assess this person's ability to problem solve, right? So what would be a good conclusion here? What thoughts did we have? What things does this person need to do in a conclusion? A wraparound would be a good thing. Okay, okay. Any other ideas? That seems like a good way to do it. I'm going to show the conclusion paragraph here. Something I want to say. Oh, here, sorry, another chat. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, just I want to say that it will be okay if it will if you add like reflection evaluation, because like in the end he can just like end his essay with the words like I want to end this essay with the like he just continue all the stuff he started in the beginning. It's like to be the first who will help, and it just continue and end with this main idea.
Okay, right. So I think something that we need to notice here, if it's a wraparound or if it's reflective evaluation, someone said effect would be a good one. This essay has a lot of different kind of big ideas in it, and anytime we're confronted with like a lot of big ideas, focusing on those main ideas in some way and kind of coming back to them is a good thing. That's kind of what we've got here. So I'm going to let you read through this. It's sort of a summary, more than some of the other ones have been, but I think that's important here.
So he kind of like made a summary of those, how to say it, of those like characteristics, like being active, like acting decisively and so on. And he calls it as like true caretaker, right?
Yeah, right. So the way I look at it, it's like skill A plus skill B plus skill C equals D, like me now, like my ability to deal with something that was really otherwise like a nightmare situation, right? So,
yeah,
yeah, cool. Okay, questions on this, guys? We have about 5 minutes left. There is one more essay. I leave it up to you. How do we want to go about this? Roshan, what do you think? We could do one more? I'm open to it.
it's up to you. Like,
Okay, I'm open to it, guys.
one more.
I understand if people need to leave. I'll try to make this one a little bit less time. But here, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. This is another one that I think is kind of a tricky prompt personally. So I'm going to go ahead and share this now. And if you have to go, you've at least got the essay that you can look at, right? There you go. All right, and I'm going to just quickly move us in here. We won't take too much longer, I promise. Here we go. Mm-hmm. Hold on, buddy. Oh, wow. You gave me some shiny stuff. All right, welcome back, everybody. So yeah, we got a couple more people coming in still. Great, everybody stayed. That's wonderful. I know we're a little past 8 here. We'll be done very soon, I promise. So what did you guys think about this essay? Any thoughts on this one? Big feeling would be a good way to go. I could see that. Yeah, this essay kind of focuses on emotion anyway, kind of the feelings connected with that sports match. And then there's sort of that challenge. A tribute. Who would the tribute be to? The coach, maybe? Okay, a sequel. I could see that. Yeah. Advice, maybe. Maybe. Some of the conclusion already is kind of here. Like here, I'm going to share that document. We'll see if I can. Yeah, reflection, I think, is a good way to go. I could agree with that. Let me see if I can pull it up here. There's a section near the end of what I just shared with you. Oh, no, it's not opening for me. Here we go. Okay. This thing, no, not this one. Oh, here we go. Okay. Yeah, we had a historic season. Things went really well. But then there's also this wraparound sentence kind of, this experience was particularly sweet for me as I remembered back to 6th grade and how far I had come from the boy who quit after one practice. And so that kind of goes all the way back to that first paragraph, right? So we're already doing some conclusion type stuff in the second to last paragraph here. I am going to show you the last paragraph. It's kind of generous to call it a paragraph. It's actually just one sentence. And I think it's pretty light on anything. So maybe we could say that the most valuable stuff came in the paragraph before it. But that's that. I think as a general rule, reading lots of example essays is a really good thing. Keep in mind these different conclusion possibilities that are available to you. I'll make sure I'll give Roshan those resources that we used today, including the book that those endings came from, so that you're welcome to practice that stuff in the future as well. Guys, Rakmiet, thank you for hanging with me the last 2 hours. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. Roshan, do you have any like parting words for them, or I don't really know?
I'm just gonna say that we will send you an evaluation form, and we hope that you will be able to complete it maybe today or tomorrow. So it's just about like 7 or 5 questions, so it's not much, but we really need to hear from you what you liked, what you didn't like, and will you recommend this session to anyone else? And thank you, Ben.
Yeah, sure. Guys, I just want to let you know, you're famous, not by name, but you're famous. I sent a report about what we did last week to Washington, D.C., and they loved it. They loved it. So I'm going to send a report about this one too. But we got very positive remarks. So you guys are doing an excellent job. Stay in touch. Don't be shy. You've got my information. So, all right.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Sabonis.